Welcome to the Greyhound Rewind. We're here today with two wonderful people from the cross-country teams here at the University of Indianapolis. I have Coach Brad Robinson, 2018 GLVC Women's Coach of the Year, also leading the women's team to their first team title since the 1992 season. And then as well with me, I have student athlete Lauren Bailey, rising senior GLVC scholar athlete, and also D2 All-American. So Brad, kind of kicking it off real quick. Reflect on some of the points during the 2019 season and how it kind of differed from 2018.
Yeah, 2019, we were a significantly different team overall as we were way younger. We had a lot of seniors and upperclassmen leading the way in 2018, which was awesome. That created a lot of depth for us and led us to that deeper performance consistently throughout the season, specifically the team title at GLVC. Versus 2019, we didn't have a single senior on the team. Or I take that back. We had one who was a transfer senior, but nobody returning from the year before who was a senior. So a very young team, and 2019 was a huge growing season overall for us, Lauren included in that process. And without a doubt, I'd say she had the largest growth of anybody, which was an example at the end of the season by the time when she got to nationals in her All-American performance.
So Lauren, kind of branching off of that, how did you approach the year differently from 2018 to 2019? Because Brad talked about you had a little bit of growth, probably most of the growth upon anybody or compared to anybody.
Definitely last summer, I wanted to make it a goal to step up some mileage, and Brad challenged me by putting me in a higher mileage group. And that made me really excited because I really do enjoy running. Running at a higher mileage, scheduled at a higher mileage. So just having that challenge of being able being able to have these opportunities for those challenges, along with having Brad believing in my abilities of handling that higher mileage, was really exciting and really, really encouraging along with that. And I started running with some of the guys this year too, and that made a huge impact. Because they were very open and very, very kind and accepting of allowing me to run with them. But I feel like I kind of went into the mindset of just having fun, remembering to have fun, remember why I like to run. And it's because I just like I love everything that it comes with, the people, the movement, just the feeling of freedom, I guess, of relieving stress and just having fun on runs. So just kind of looking at more as an opportunity this is hard, I guess, as an opportunity to, I'm trying to think of a certain word, but it's kind of hard in the moment. An opportunity to embrace something that I'm passionate about. Yeah.
So both of you can kind of chime in on this, having a lot of fun throughout the season. Arguably one of the most fun, I think you two would agree when I message you, hey, what race do you think we're doing for this? And you guys both said nationals would be great. What did it feel like even before the race, stepping foot at nationals and getting to be on the big stage?
Waking up that morning and just feeling really good and really excited to get after it that day, knowing that we made it first off, and then just having really no pressure, just going with an open mind and seeing the course from the day before gave me a lot of motivation of just physically being able to envision myself in the race the day before. And then waking up to the morning conditions of it being I think 60 degrees, no wind, pure sunshine was completely ideal. So just having that excitement of having great weather, considering our season had been pretty muddy, pretty rainy early on, being really excited about that, and then being able to compete with some of the fastest girls in the nation was really exciting, and just being able to all be together and see what we can do together.
Yeah, from my standpoint, going to nationals and it being so far away from us out in California, and we didn't have a chance to actually see the course during the regular season, but a few coaches from our region or a few meets that had an opportunity, and talking to them, describing it, I was pretty excited about what they said and the way Lauren races, her capability, because as she was referencing, she had an incredible season through the entire year, but nearly every time we stepped out to race, something was just drastic in the weather, the course conditions, whether it was Taylor that was hilly and 90-degree heat on a Friday evening. Then the best weather we had all year, I asked her to sit out, which was hard in the moment, being Louisville, which is perfect conditions, and athletes on the team were PRing left and right. And instead, we raced a week later in the complete opposite conditions at Lewis, which were running in almost ankle-deep mud, if not deeper at times. So definitely slowing an athlete down. And then even conference, which is a torrential downpour the entire race for both races into the award ceremony. And regionals is kind of the lingering effects of rain all week going into it. So by the time we got to California, which was relatively flat, incredibly dry, and the ground was about as close as you can get to a track for grass and dirt surface. And then on top of it, the weather was like mid-50s to 60s, nearly perfect as well, no humidity. Lauren's box assignment was right in between the two athletes that had finished right in front of her at the regional meet, so she had somebody to key off of. It was, from my standpoint going into it, it felt like the planets aligning or the stars aligning for the perfect scenario, and which is exactly what played out for. We couldn't have asked for a better situation at the national meet.
So you guys are talking about how, the weather's changing. There's all these adjustments that are being made kind of before the race and the couple days in preparation. Were there any like mid-race adjustments? Because a lot of people may not know, or have been to a cross-country race. Is there that communication between you two that say like, oh, maybe we got to change it up, like in the middle of the race, you could be halfway through. Or was there a point where, you just turned it off and you were like, I'm just going to go?
For that race in particular, it was definitely just like, go. Just keep doing what you're doing. For me personally, I'm a runner that kind of gets out a little bit slower at the start, but I remember the night before Brad was telling me, he was like, hey, the start's going to be fast. And I was like, okay. Like I kind of figured that. And he's like, no, it's going to be fast. Like you need it. You make sure like you get out. And I remember like the start of the race, like seeing everybody just bolt off that start line. It was just like, whoa, it was a huge wake up call. But then I was able to kind of adjust from there. Just with everybody some people go out really, really fast and start to die off just a little bit. And that's where I started to gain some momentum. And so that kind of played to my advantage a little bit nicely. And I felt like the entire time Brad was just saying, he's just like, just keep moving up, just keep doing your thing. And I didn't really have like any mid-race. I honestly don't remember much of the middle of the race at all, to be honest. But I remember coming down that finish line and just knowing the position that I was in and just seeing that finish line in front of me and seeing like all the fans and stuff was just something that I will never forget. And it was just really cool having that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's too much mid-race change of strategy. Sometimes we'll have issues, or I'll yell at athletes like if they're way too back of like, you got to recommit. But for Lauren, we talked about a lot of it beforehand, particularly the start, just because it is a national meet and the course being the best conditions we've been in all year was only going to make it even faster exponentially than any other race she'd started the entire season. So mentally reinforcing that verbally, she said, went over it a couple of times just to emphasize it so it hit home for her. But she was so fit, I didn't have any concerns of her overrunning the start. That even her overrunning is still probably a little cautious compared to other athletes. And then from there, mid-race, she just kind of locked in, was being competitive, and actually worked her way, I believe, all the way up to 7th at one point in the middle of the race. So a lot of it's just reminding her of, stay relaxed, feel it out, letting her know who was around her from my standpoint for what she can hear or what she kind of actually filters in and processes during the race, because sometimes the athletes you can yell. So you can try to yell as much instruction as you want to. We try to keep it as concise as possible so that it's easier to sink in and process. And then about 3/4 of the way through, we try to find a word or a theme for the race, and commit was really the theme, particularly at the end of just when you hit that phase that you start to struggle, and I can read the body language of try to vocalize, make eye contact, or be visual as much as I can, reminder of it, and give her that cognitive recognition of why we're here and what we're going through. Of, even if you're struggling, don't lose sight of what you've come here to do. And that's exactly what she did in the whole race. She committed, but particularly the last third, when athletes around her that had beat her all season were faltering, Lauren did not, and capitalized on the day.
So you two both kind of talked about those moments, and like Brad, you mentioned the word commit. Give me like both of you real quick, just give me like a percentage point of like when you realized that Lauren was going to do it. Like at what point? Because I'll be honest, I was in the middle of a meeting when the race was going on, but you bet that I had the stream pulled up on my computer and I was watching it. So
Aw.
like at what point did you realize like, oh my gosh, like this is it, like we're going to do this?
I would say, kind of recapping the race in general, it's such a fast start, and telling Lauren to get out, she's by herself versus looking for the team along with an individual athlete, it terrified me because I couldn't see her in the first 800 meters. So it wasn't until shortly before the mile then I finally saw her, and she went from not seeing her at all in the masses to see her in the top 15. And at that point, it's like, all right, it's going to be a good day. She's going to be All-American. But it probably wasn't until a mile to go that I was like certain for sure that she was going to be in that top 15 range, even if she started to struggle. And then seeing her really in the last 800, just continuing to punish those around her, I saw that it was going to be a top 10 and something that I knew was a possibility, but not something we were overemphasizing. Just if it happened, it happened. And basically checked off every box and exceeded every expectation. So I'd say, like, ultimately, I knew from a mile on she was good to be All-American, but exceeding, because most of the time I remember, Lauren, we kind of talked like, top 15 to top 20 is pretty much the realistic range, like without a doubt, feel pretty comfortable within. And then seeing her being top 10 was definitely a little bit more than we at least verbally conveyed. Not that we both didn't maybe think personally that she could be top 10, but we weren't bringing that uneasy extra stress to her overall. So seeing the last half mile when she was really pouring it on is when I kind of realized, yeah, top 10 is going to happen today, which is awesome.
For me personally, I remember the night before, Brad and I we have like a meeting before, and I remember we were talking about it. I remember he was just like, top 15 is this All-American status. And I just remember hearing those words, and I was like, that's what I want. That's the goal, top 15. And I remember Brad also gives me a note card to write down goals. So the night before I can look over it and just kind of like have my goals envisioned in mind and have something to just like sleep on and be like, okay, this is the plan for tomorrow. But for me personally, I'm the type of person that I don't believe it until it's finished. And so I just remember, as I said earlier, coming down that finish line was something that I'll never forget. It was like a whole different, it was like my body responded before my mind did. And just feeling not like I couldn't even feel my legs coming down the finish line just because it was just like, oh my gosh, complete awestruck. And it really wasn't until about a few moments after crossing the finish line was when I realized. I was like, oh my gosh, we did it. Like that was top 10 here. It's so cool. But yeah, it was just, I think for me, it was just I was enjoying the race itself, but it just didn't really quite hit till it was over and just being like, wow, that was cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And we've talked about so many improvements, and, that was kind of the beginning of this conversation of like the improvements from 18 to 19, but now what's next let's stick for Lauren Bailey first. What's next? What's the goal for Lauren Bailey now?
The goal first off is to hopefully have a season for everybody. And honestly, just looking at the mindset of just going in with a positive attitude, remembering that each race is an opportunity, especially with everything going on with the pandemic. I definitely, whenever I get that chance to get back on that start line, it's just remembering this is an opportunity to be racing today, as where 6 months ago I wasn't able to, or there was no opportunity to be able to. So just keeping that in mind of just like, this is a gift, being able to be on the start line and just being excited about that. And along with being able to be back with my teammates again and just enjoy those fun pre-race moments where we all do a huddle together, we all do a prayer, and then being able to share our post-race excitements together afterwards. So I think right now it's just keep training, keep having fun, enjoying the summer sunshine, and keep building on top of some of these challenges, especially with mileage, and having fun with that. But yeah, just looking towards all the positives for the season.
For Lauren in particular, I would say from our standpoint, and the team in general, it's first and foremost focusing on what you can control. And COVID-19 has been an amazing reminder for all of us of there's so much we don't have control over. But our sport is the most blessed out of anybody right now, that if you're allowed to be outside, it may not be as exciting as being with the team, but you can still get something in and train on your own. So we're pretty blessed for that. And we're going to build off of it going into the season. The idea is to fall in love with running if for some reason you fall out of love with running, because everybody that's on the team at some point has loved running to some capacity. So making sure we can kind of recommit to that right now during this portion of the season, the year, and what's going on at this point in the world. And then from there, when we start racing, putting athletes in position to achieve their goals is the idea. So I never tell an athlete that you've got to be national champion or All-American, but I want to give them the skill set that when they're racing, they're confident when they step on the line that they're going to be able to maximize the opportunity to the best of their potential. You never know what others are doing throughout the year to step up and surpass you. But if you're continuing to improve from where you were, at least ability and time-wise, and you get beat by somebody else, then that's something we have to accept.
No, awesome. Yeah, I want to thank you both for joining me today on this lovely, well, it's a little bit humid outside, but we'll see you guys in the next one, whatever sport that may be. Hounds win.